visit program. We're trying to get it in some of our other programs, but that's technology.
So you're making this play out. How is it going?
Well, I would say from the passport perspective, we're doing exactly what Chairman Thompson wants to see happen, and that is incorporating biometrics. And it's a matter of actually the digital photograph. Facial recognition and using facial biometrics has come a long way. It's not, again, 100%.
Very often we talk about technology and we talk about what we can learn from the commercial space. Are there some things we can learn from the commercial space coming into this?
I think the commercial space has really led and spent a lot of time on what I call back-end identity issuance and authentication. When we log on to a website today, our identity is being authenticated more or less by information we previously provided. So that rapid ability to digitally process an identity, I think, is something that really comes directly from the commercial sector.
There are a couple points that I think we shouldn't get away from this conversation. One is, I think a lot of these privacy issues, I think they're going to be addressed. This is one of these, identifying identity is so important, and everyone brings up the New Yorker cartoon, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. When this gets all figured out, and we've been working on it for a number of years now, I think it's going to be one of those enabling technologies that just helps agencies, organizations, everybody do things that we just never even envisioned that we could even do before. I'd never disagree with Congressman Thompson, but in a way it's not really the technology that is the hindrance here. It's all these other issues. It's when you do come into or out of a federal building, hold on, I've always done it this way, why does it need to change? And I think to some degree we haven't done a very good job of explaining why these changes need to take place.
We can't have any conversation in Washington without talking about Congress. Chris, let me ask you, as you report on this whole scene, what kinds of things do we need Congress to do right now?
If this is important, I always say money is a real good way of assessing what you consider a priority. And if it's really important, let's put money behind it and spend money.
The state and local governments do have a responsibility here. And it isn't just about federal money. It's about matching that at the state and local level and matching that commitment and understanding, again, why it is that we're doing the things that we're doing. And I think I have found that.
And so there needs to be sort of a new formation, a new dialogue between federal, state, and local, involving them all. So it's no longer, people pointing fingers, which it tends to happen.
One of the security concerns I think people have, and perhaps one of the fears tying to privacy, is what I think is a misconception. Gordon, I'll let you answer that there's going to be this big database with all this information in it about, with my iris scans, my fingerprints, my date of birth, my favorite TV show, and everything else you want to think of. And that scares me, because if anybody breaks into that one thing, they're going to know all about me. How would you answer somebody, or maybe a congressman who has that fear?
I'd say that's not the case. I think you heard us mention several programs. Each one of these programs has one or more databases involved. I think the key is really getting towards interoperability of credentials. But the key is really that those systems only obtain and retain the minimum amount of data needed to do the job of that system.
I think the concept behind the Real ID is an important one. It is the standard. The driver's license is the standard that everybody uses,
right,
for all intents and purposes. And there should be some kind of backing, so it's not the weakest link anymore.
I want to give each of you an opportunity to tell us what you think the next big challenges that we're going to look for in this general topic of ID management. And along the way, you can certainly tell us, too, if you think we're better off today than after 6 years after the infamous date of 9/11. I'm going to start over here with you, Gordon. What's the next big challenge?
I think the big challenge is really getting a number of these programs underway and getting the infrastructure in place to use the credential. And then to your question, are we better off? I think we are, just by the fact that we brought attention to the issues.
Chris, let's go to you.
I think one of the big issues is privacy. One of the big issues is this working not only with federal, state, and local, but among feds. Feds have difficult time working amongst one another. I think probably the biggest challenge is to constantly remind people why we're doing this. September 11th, I absolutely think, I totally agree with Gordon that we've come a long way. Just by addressing the issue, it's now something that is at least a subject for debate on a national scale. It's not just tech geeks that are talking about it, and it's real.
And Kathy, we'll finish with you.
Well, I definitely do think we're better off, of course, for all of the reasons that people have seen, all the programs that we put in place and layers we put in place in the security world, not just in identity management, but also clearly in that area. In terms of challenges forward, we really do have what Gordon mentioned earlier is the trust issue.
Well, let me thank you all for joining us on this conversation about identity management here on Tech Talk, and we'll invite all of you to join us next time for Tech Talk. Thank you.